surfboard value might be? Vintage, antique, whatever.
The value of a board depends on the manufacturer, who shaped it, who potentially wrote it, obviously what kind of condition it is and what kind of air it comes from. So here at this auction, this is what I call the everyman auction, because there's boards as cheap as $25, and probably the high-end board here is probably about $5,000 at the most. As opposed to the old Hawaiian Island vintage surf auction I used to put on, where everything was high-end. That was all geared to the high-end collectors and very historic boards, what have you. Here we got boards basically that you could find on a surfboard rack. And at the same time, there's mixed in here a couple really cool ones too that have a great story. So what we call the provenance, in other words, the story behind the board is what determines the value. So you can have a board that's $25, and then if it was shaped by somebody famous or ridden by somebody famous or had some unique story to it, that same board could be worth 10 times that, just because of what the history behind it. So if you walk around here, you'll see boards, like I said, it'll go for $25 to $250, and then a couple that'll go for $2,500. So it all depends on the history behind the board.
Which of the boards here has provenance that would interest you?
There's one board here that came from the Rainbow Bridge era on Maui. It's shaped by Mike Hinson. It's one of the early down railers. It has the weighted nose slot in it, and it has hand-drawn artwork by Bill Ogden. The artwork alone makes that board worth almost $2,000. Just the artwork on the board, and the fact that it came from the Rainbow Bridge era on Maui. So that board to me is probably the coolest board that's on offer here. But at the same time, there's a paddle board that's kind of cool. There's a couple old guns that are pretty neat. So it's like art, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. So whatever turns you on is what makes it worth it.
If some of these boards have minimums to start with,
right,
which establishes sort of a base value.
Right.
If you were trying to collect something like this, would you count up the number of dings in it? Would you look at the decal and say it's got a really cool decal? How would you put the value on an everyman board?
Right. Well, once again, the condition is the main thing. So, like for instance, we have two Lance Carson models, which are very desirable. We have two Trestle Specials. And if you look at the two, one's more beat up, one's a little bit more sunburned than the other one. So obviously the cleaner one's going to be worth a little bit more. But yet these are starting off the same price, so once again it's the eye of the beholder. Whoever's got the more money will probably pay more for the better of the two. Aloha to the Surfing Heritage and Cultural Center in San Clemente.